shit as a kid. I remember the first time I seen a chick like my age get naked for me, all that type of shit.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I was had a crazy life, and that was like, I promised to God I was going to St. Julian, so I had to be either 3 or 4. I promised to God I was sitting on the porch one morning, and she was across the street stripping for me.
And you was 3 or 4.
Yeah, and that shit's sad. Because that shit is sad.
That's pedophile shit.
She a kid. She was a kid, so she had to be exposed to some sick shit too. Cause their house was crazy. Their house was the first house I found out like roaches had wings. Like when you turn the water on hot and the roach in the tub and the shit go like that. That was the house I discovered that in on Chelsea. I remember that shit. And then they had a cousin that was deaf. I remember her cousin that was deaf. That's the cousin I wanted.
Okay, yeah, we off that subject too.
Yeah, that shit was wild. I had a wild, fucked up childhood. Like, that's why I'm like, I be trying to like keep our kids away from shit and talk to them about certain shit, because I don't want them experiencing the shit I experienced as a kid.
I agree with that for sure.
Cause I'm like, man, like as far as guns, I was around a lot of guns.
Nowadays to raise kids in this.
Like when you was growing up, like who was like the first person you knew died a violent death that you can remember? Like that was murdered.
My brother and best friend.
How old were you?
I wasn't even that young. That's what's crazy, but my mom kept me away from so much, tried to keep me away from so much stuff. I want to say I was in like 3rd grade probably.
I was younger than that. It seemed like every fucking week somebody I knew through my uncle or one of my cousins died. It was like growing up on the east side, somebody always got killed. We always, like on Chelsea and Dickerson, we always heard gunshots. Like we heard gunshots, get low, it didn't start back playing. Like, and it was just like it rained and then it got dry outside.
Yeah,
that's how that shit was.
I've been around it and hurt and stuff, but as far as like it actually hitting home and really being around,
there was a lot of them niggas like that. Like dudes like I used to play with, joke, punch me, I punched them, give me $1 and shit like that. People whose names I actually remember. I remember when I was like 11, this dude who I used to fight my dog with, his dog, he had got killed. Kurt. I knew Kurt real well. Kurt was an extraordinary gentleman, a gangster. People loved and feared him. He was short as hell. That's what I admired about him. He had like a raspy voice. He was always fly and cool. But like for him to be so small, niggas was like really scared of this nigga. And he used to like, I talk a lot. He used to like, one of them was the only adult that never told me shut up. And I used to talk this nigga ear off.
You do talk.
And you know what I'm saying? He got killed, and he got killed en route that I would walk home from school. But this particular day, I probably was like flirting with a chick, and I didn't witness the scene. You see what I'm saying? And I feel like God used to bless me and still do with certain situations, because I could have been going to that store that he got killed in front of, or some shit like that. Then Pig, he got killed around the same time. Snipe ended up getting killed. That's one of my friends' dad, Brent. And Brent, he recently got killed within the last like 6-7 years. And but back then that shit was crazy. My first friend that like actually died was from cancer when I was 14. That was traumatic. That shit still bothered me. But it's like growing up, like that's just in E-course. But like before E-course, there was a lot of shit. Like 2001, it was like my cousin Ryan in November. I believe Kurt got killed either 2001, 2002. 2000, a lot of people died, but in the 90s it was like crazy. It seemed like in the 90s I went to so many funerals, from relatives, natural causes, to people getting murdered, or just hearing like certain shit about different people getting murdered. There was the neighborhood I'm originally from, there was a lot of robberies and shit. So it's like niggas used to do B&Es and they used to rob people for their basketball rims when they was on the street playing basketball. Like, you couldn't walk no dog up the street like that. If you had like a pit and you was a kid, a nigga snatch the pit, rob you at gunpoint for the pit, and be around the corner. And that shit used to be sick. That's why I'm like, when people
I grew up on South Harlem, and they had a lot of stuff going on over there. But it was a lot, like, everybody knew each other.
We knew each other too.
Close facility between my neighborhoods, them blocks. Like, I had an older brother, so everybody knew him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It wasn't. I mean, a lot of stuff still went on. But for the most part, as far as the kids, as far as all the kids in that little neighborhood and stuff, we were good. Like, it wasn't as much bull going on with us. Like, we were good for the most part.
Like, over there in Chelsea and Dickerson, I used to fight a lot because I couldn't beat Harrison up. So, I used to have to take that. And then he used to fuck with me so much, I used to have to take that frustration outside. But one thing, though, Harrison
still fuck you up?
Hell no. I whoop Harrison ass. But
I hope you watch this too.
He don't watch it, but look. One thing though, he never let nobody like beat my ass, no shit. Harrison like used to always beat people's ass for me. And then it was like one time I made him fight his best friend because I was on some bullshit, and his best friend was, so embarrassed of a certain situation, and he tried to like fight me, and Harrison like tried this move and didn't work, and then Harrison like, hey man, leave. Harrison walked me to the corner. He said he beat him up and he had to run around the corner because them promenade niggas was gonna jump him. Them promenade niggas was treacherous as kids. I remember the glass backboards first came out. It was about like 94, 93-ish. Some shit back there. And then we had the little tires, because at first we used to play with the sandbag. We had the tires. Harrison had a straight rim back then too. But them niggas came out nighttime. Promenade niggas robbed my neighbor to stay right next door. He the only person I knew with that rim. His rim had the water. Because back then we had the tires, sandbag. Nigga put the water in that bitch. That bitch was new with the glass backboard. I'm on Promenade playing basketball. I'm like, I said this shit loud because I'm not no street nigga. I'm a hood nigga, but I'm a square because I'm like really trying to be smart. And I'm like, that's such and such rim. Harrison like, shut the fuck up. And I said it again. I'm like, shut the fuck up. As soon as I made it back to Chelsea, I'm like, hey, these niggas got your rim at this house, whoop-de-whoop and all that. And they never went and got that shit. Them promenade niggas was not going like that was their rim. The house out that they had the rim was at, I don't know how much that rim probably cost like $200-300 back then, probably more than that. And in the 90s, and the house was like horrible. They had their house. They was like back then. You can rent out a fucked up house, so it was like kind of like the house was kind of like a bando. It had a garage that was like really fucked up. It wasn't safe for kids.
Yeah.
We played in some fucked up environments that were like, you'd be like, as a parent now, you'd be like, don't go over there. I'm like, we even jumped off garages, all that different type of shit as a kid. I'd be petrified to see my kid jump off a fucking garage. We used to roll off garages, all different type of shit. Like, we used to be standing on top of houses like, hey, you know what I'm saying?
I don't want to see my baby do that now. I see kids out now, little boys, no more than about 10, 11.
He used to be like 3, 4 doing that shit.
I'm saying though, I'm not saying that. I'm saying younger than that, and I just be seeing them in certain neighborhoods by themselves, just 2 or 3 of them riding bikes or just walking up. You know what I'm saying?
And that shit crazy.
I can't.
Yeah.
Me growing up, we used to do it on Van Dyke, whatever is different, but I don't want my son doing that. I don't want him doing that. I want him to have his couple friends he be with, and they on the block that we own and ride their bikes.
Like even back then,
I don't want to ride from work, come home from work or something and all this, and I see my son and his 2 friends on 7 Mile, and I don't want to.
Even like with the stores, like back in the day, we had a store on the corner. We had 2 stores, and we used to walk to the stores. Like I used to be young as hell going to the store, and I wouldn't feel comfortable with my kid doing that.
Yeah.
Like, we knew, like, what we could do, like, growing up over there. You know, we stayed on our block. Unless we asked to go around the corner, we can go to Promenade. Sometimes we can walk the way, me and Harrison, you know, some shit like that. But, like, regular, we can ride our bike up and down the street, and then we can go from, like, this way, make a right, and then turn around and go that way, make a right, turn around, and then come back.
I feel like so much is changing nowadays anyway. A lot of kids at my, like, growing up for me, we was outside all the time. Like you said, playing basketball, riding bikes, doing this, doing that. A lot of kids nowadays, they might be outside and ride their bike up and down the street for a minute, then they back in the house. They want to be on their tablet.